As the Chandrayaan-3 completes another important milestone, all of India is counting down to the soft landing of ISRO's lunar probe. And the build-up and the changes made between Chandrayaan-2 and 3, whether that will be enough to power us to success with Chandrayaan-3, all that and more is my top focus on the news track.
Go Vikram, lander now moonbound. Vikram lander to orbit and descend. No turning back for Chandrayaan. 7-day nail-biting countdown is on. Billion cheers for Chandrayaan-3.
Here's a look at the headlines I'm tracking today. Cracks appear in the India coalition. AAP and Congress quarrel over Delhi seats. TMC declares it will sweep Bengal in 2024 without the Congress. PDP chief Mehbooba Mufti stokes controversy, compares India with Pakistan and Syria, claims normalcy in Kashmir is propaganda. Battle for Kaveri water boils again. BJP hits out at the Siddaramaiah government as it decides to release water to Tamil Nadu. BJP accuses the Congress of appeasing its India ally, the DMK. Big India Today investigation impact. New riots accused. Bittu Bajrangi sent to 14 days judicial custody. Cops also recover 8 swords from him. Himachal Pradesh death toll mounts to 71 after incessant rains and landslides. Indian Air Force deployed as relief and rescue operations continue. The 7-day nail-biting countdown to the Chandrayaan landing is now well and truly on. In a mega milestone, the Vikram lander today split successfully from its mothership 163 kilometers away from the lunar surface. The lander is now moon-bound and will attempt a soft landing on the south corner of the moon at 5:47 p.m. on the 23rd of August. All of India is waiting with bated breath.
It's the final countdown. In 6 days from now, India will be at the moon's south pole. In one of the most crucial maneuvers yet by Chandrayaan-3, lander Vikram separated from the mothership, the Propulsion Module, to set up a date with the moon. The Vikram lander, with its rover Pragyan inside, is on its journey now to the moon's south pole, expected to touch down for that historic soft landing on August the 23rd at 5:45 p.m. Our ISRO heroes have done it again. A picture-perfect launch, followed by a super smooth journey into the moon's orbit, but the true test will now come in 6 days.
So whatever that mistake happened in the Chandrayaan-2 have been corrected in Chandrayaan-3. Also, that additional design margins have been improved. Also, that wherever the redundancy is not there, now it's put it. That way, we have more confidence on Chandrayaan-3 to be successful.
Equipped with 4 landing legs and 4 landing thrusters of 800 newtons each, Vikram is designed for a soft landing on the moon. It carries within it a rover named Pragyan. A billion Indians are now rooting for Chandrayaan-3, and congratulations are pouring in for our ISRO heroes who continue to work day in and out to ensure a 100% successful mission.
No, certainly a matter of great satisfaction and a moment of pride for each one of us. Whereas the propulsion module will keep moving and keep taking pictures. So now the roles have got divided, and each of the components will perform its respective roles.
It is also a symbol of India's growing capability and capacity, and I hope Chandrayaan-3 works out to be a very successful mission.
With lander Vikram making the difficult journey now to the moon's surface on its own, what happens to the propulsion module that helped Chandrayaan travel so far? Well, ISRO has confirmed that the propulsion module will continue its journey in its current orbit around the moon.
Now, the propulsion module will continue its research with the shape sensor, gathering data about cloud polarization, which can be used to find signatures on exoplanets for habitability. The lander module, after deboosting, will go ahead and in the next 5 days will start the procedure of soft landing on the moon's surface.
Vikram is on its final lap now, and a billion hopes are pinned on this 1,778 kilogram lander and rover to fulfill our Chandrama dreams. Onward and upward, Chandrayaan. With Pramod Madhav, Bureau Report, India Today.
The Chandrayaan-3 mission blasted off for the moon on the 14th of July. In its more than month-long journey, it has successfully completed several maneuvers and is now heading towards an exciting finale. The lander will descend to a slightly lower orbit upon a deboosting, which is planned for tomorrow. Here's a look at the Chandrayaan's journey so far.
Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft and propulsion module, having spent 34 days together, parted ways and embarked on their respective journeys on 17th August. The propulsion module separated from the lander while in lunar orbit. A day before, on 16th August, the spacecraft had successfully completed a crucial firing operation, placing it into an orbit of 153 kilometers by 163 kilometers around the moon. This marked the completion of the lunar-bound maneuvers and brought the spacecraft one step closer to its ultimate goal of landing on the south pole of the moon.
It is really a vital element, because now you look at your Chandrayaan-3 mission basically consists of 3 plus 1 4 modules type of thing. First is LVM-3, which has taken the composite of Vikram Lander, propulsion module, and the Pragyan, the rover, to the 36,000 kilometer highly elliptical orbit. From there, using a 5 earthbound maneuvers, propulsion module has taken the composite of Vikram Lander and the Pragyan to the lunar orbit. Again, the lunar orbit also, from the elliptical orbit, it has now brought to the near circular, close to the moon, around 153 kilometer orbit. It has brought 153 by 163 kilometer. So now the important thing is, final thing is softly and securely landing on the moon.
The propulsion module is a box-like structure with a large solar panel and a cylinder on top. It is responsible for carrying the lander and rover configuration until the spacecraft reaches 100 kilometers lunar orbit. The propulsion module will now continue its role as a communication relay satellite.
Now Vikram has to take its own course of action. Further, it has to separate. So even after separating, then the major event comes. The major event is 4 800 Newton thrusters. They have to fire to take it to the lower orbit. That also will be done in 2 steps, and ensuring that all the 3 systems are working properly. These 2 steps, it will go down, put 100 kilometer orbit, then from 100 to go to the 30 kilometer orbit. 100 by 30 kilometer orbit. That's a very vital. But when it's going very closer to the Earth, so the position of the module has to be ascertained properly.
Carrying hopes of billions of Indians, Bahubali rocket LVM-3 lifted off from Sriharikota on 14th of July, with Chandrayaan-3 aiming to land a rover on the moon's surface. The takeoff was picture perfect. More than a month later, it's now on its last leg to make history, an Indian space dream come true.
The story of Chandrayaan-2 was a tale of so near and yet so far. ISRO scientists think they've brought in the changes required, learned the right lessons to ensure that Chandrayaan-3 can make a successful soft landing on the south side of the moon. To talk about how this mission has progressed so far and what to expect in the days to come before that critical landing on the 23rd of August, I'm joined by Dr. Amitabh Ghosh, space scientist, one of the well-known researchers at NASA, was part of the Mars Exploration Rover mission. Also with us is Ramesh Kumar Kapoor. Ramesh Chandra Kapoor is an astronomer. He's been a professor at the Indian Institute of Astrophysics. Arvind Paranjpe is the director of the Nehru Center Planetarium. So thank you very much for joining us. I want to go across to Dr. Ghosh first. Looking at it from your lens and given what you've seen internationally, how significant is the Chandrayaan-3 in a global context? For India, it means the world, or everyone watching at this time, itching and wanting for Chandrayaan-3 to succeed. But in the community of space scientists, where does this stand in a global order?
Well, it's always exciting in the global community of scientists, there are no country boundaries. So it's always exciting if another country joins in and shares this marvelous exploration miracle. So why it is so important to India is if this soft landing capacity is achieved, India could go to an asteroid, India can go to Mars. So it opens up a whole new platform of opportunities. Global context, why it's important. Unlike the 1960s, NASA is headed back to the moon this time to perhaps build a more permanent base. Private players are interested, like Jeff Bezos' Blue Origins. China is interested and they want to go back in 2030. So I think there's a global interest in going back to the moon and settling
What
on
is
the moon.
sparking this global interest in wanting to build more permanent structures, having missions there all the time? Because for a very long time, it seemed to have lost interest. Why is it that the moon is suddenly so much in interest in the United States, as is the case in China and elsewhere?
Very good question. So I think what happened is man went to the moon in the 60s, 70s. Then they said, let's go to Mars. And then I think over the next 20 years, we realized that Mars is very far away and very expensive. To put it in context, it's about 200 to 300 million miles away. The moon can be reached in 3 days. So if you were to try to make a technology demonstration, it makes much more sense to go to the moon. And then we had this discovery of ice at the South Pole, which makes the human mission much more realistic because ice can help with water for human use, for oxygen for human use, also oxygen for the return journey. So I think it was a back and forth. So NASA in 2003 wanted to go to the moon. In the Obama administration, they said, well, let's go to Mars. And again, with President Trump, we were back to the moon again because that was the
for the larger quest of establishing a permanent base on the south side of the moon. What role do you think Chandrayaan-3 can play in that global quest for a permanent destination? Because this, if everything goes well, lands on the south side of the moon. So what kind of exploration will Chandrayaan-3 be doing which could be useful in a global context?
Well, it could map out the distribution of ice. But then the larger hauling of how do you extract that ice into water and how do you deliver large payloads to the moon to make structures. For that, you need very large launch vehicles, which the US has and which China still doesn't have, but might have. So the Starship being built by Elon Musk can carry maybe 30 times more than the GSLV. So you need to carry huge structures to the moon. Say you're trying to build like a international space station on the moon. So there, I think the larger spaceships, the launch vehicles would be required.
Okay, Ramesh Chandra Kapoor, given your seat as a professor at the Indian Institute of Astrophysics, Could you give a sense of why this mission is important for India from the perspective of India's space odyssey, the missions that we've had in the past, the lessons from Chandrayaan-2 and what's changed between 2 and 3 to ensure that the last piece which we missed out on the last time, we're able to nail this time around?
Well, today's news has been very encouraging, and so far, journey has been really good. And obviously, if we are having a science mission to the moon, so there are reasons for that. One of the main reasons is that ISRO is going to demonstrate its technical prowess, technical capability, and reaching payloads to the moon and landing them softly on the surface. Soft landing is a very, very difficult thing, and ISRO is going to demonstrate. We very much hope that it's going to happen the desired way, and it will establish ISRO's prowess. And obviously, for future programs, ISRO is already being acknowledged by different space agencies, and it has worked in collaboration with them, and also based satellites of many countries in lower orbits or even higher orbits. So, south pole of the moon, because Chandrayaan-1 actually found presence of ice in 2008, and then the whole world woke up to this, and that was a wonderful discovery, and it is also considered as one of the most important discoveries in the solar system in these few decades. So, oxygen, Dr. Ghosh has already pointed out that water means for human consumption and also for as a source of oxygen and hydrogen for this travel and for, as fuel for the future.
Okay, Dr. Prishi Kumar, you've been a research scientist with NASA. You've been the group director of the ISRO Satellite Center. So you've seen both ISRO and NASA, and give our viewers a contextual comparison between the work being done at this moment at ISRO with much lesser budgets than the work that NASA does, and explain also the significance of a soft landing and how do scientists plan and practice for a soft landing on the moon without actually being able to do so.
Okay. I mean, going to the moon is no joke. It's a very challenging task. ISRO has taken this up quite seriously. The current effort, Chandrayaan-3, has taken a lot of additional precautions compared to our earlier attempt. And so there is large confidence that this actually will happen.
So spend a moment on that, delve into that. Without getting too technical and getting caught in scientific jargon, what's changed between Chandrayaan-2 and 3, which makes you more confident that Chandrayaan-3 might be successful?
There was a substantial amount of time to do tests on the system. Tests of sensors, which are critical for landing. Tests of sensors which are critical for guiding the system to the right spot that we want to do. Additional elements have been strengthened, like the legs of the lander. Additional fuel is available now. And so overall, better prepared with a lot of testing and repeated reviews that, making sure every stone is left unturned. And in that sense, I think much better prepared.
Explain the significance of a soft landing in comparison with a normal landing. Why is a soft landing technically much tougher to achieve?
Well, soft landing means you're landing at a rate of about 2 to 3 meters per second at the final phase of it, which means substantially cutting the velocity of this extremely fast-moving spacecraft to a level where systems on board are sustained. And something very critical in the long run, if you really want humans to land on the moon, you really have to learn to soft land on it. So soft landing is essential for lunar exploration, both for machines as well as for humans. So that is why Chandrayaan-3's achievement is going to be seen in an entirely different light if we do the soft landing as required.
Arvind Paranjpe, what's the kind of feedback that you're getting, the interest that you're seeing amongst everyone flocking to the Nehru Planetarium and elsewhere? It just seems in our newsroom and elsewhere, no matter what else is happening in Indian politics, everyone is tracking the Chandrayaan journey, stories on the Chandrayaan flying off chartbeat, where you can see how much interest there is, who's reading what on digital or on YouTube or watching on TV. It's Chandrayaan-3, which is the #1 story.
Absolutely, it is a #1 story. Excuse me. And when the launch took place, we had arranged for public viewing, and people were assembled together, and whoever came to our planetarium for that day show. It was raining quite heavy in Mumbai, and everybody clapped, and it was some kind of a celebration without even preparing for it. So it was that. And as the visitor will come to the planetarium, they have this standing question about whatever, as you were asking other experts here, that what about Chandrayaan, whether it will land, and then people are hopeful. People actually, why hopeful? I would say people do believe that this time we are successfully going to land on the surface of the moon. And then they have associated question people generally ask. And one of the question which has been also asked as a science versus God, and that is the before the launch took place, the idol Chandrayaan model was taken to Tirupati and so on and so forth. So answer to that, our question is that well, scientists and technical engineers and all that, they do believe in pure science and all that. But after all, there is some kind of a human faith involved in it. Many astronauts have been going into the space with, like we know, Sunita Williams carried Geeta with her and so on and so forth. And therefore, we had to tell them that, look, there are some people who believe in it. But as a pure scientist, when it comes to landing or see, I mean, even talking about the space mission itself, it's a very much scientific. There is no muhurt, the way we understand muhurt in our Indian context. But then people do take out the numbers based on the positions of the moon, sun, and other planets. That is the gravity part of it. And then why this at this particular time in the year that we have sent it, that is because the moon has come slightly closer to Earth. I mean, its orbit is always elliptical, as you have said right in the beginning in your promos. So it comes slightly closer, so that saves fuel. And related questions people ask, and we also plan to see that people understand everything. Probably,
Dr. Amitabh Ghosh, why is the Indian mission taking so much longer than the Russian mission? It isn't a race, of course. But, you know, it's generating a lot of chatter that the Russians took off after us with their Luna. Somehow they might get there one day before us. And people are wondering what's going on. They start late and they get there earlier. So what is it that the Chandrayaan is doing which is making it take more time?
So it's a very good question, and I have been asked this too. So basically the Russian launch vehicle, I think Soyuz, or version of Soyuz, is much more powerful than the GSLV that has been used. See, the GSLV can carry maybe, I don't know, 5,000 or 7,000 kgs to low Earth orbit. I don't know what the Soyuz capacity is, but it is more. And if you think of the Apollo 11, they reached the moon in 4 days. So that was carried by the Saturn V. The capacity to low Earth orbit was probably 150,000 kgs, so 30 times more than GSLV. What Elon Musk is building is 250,000 kgs, which is 50 times more powerful than GSLV. So it is to do with how powerful the launch vehicle is that you're going to go slower or faster. And if you go slower, which is absolutely valid, you just do many more orbits, and so that takes a little more time, and it's just a slower velocity. But so long you get there, it's a valid way to get there.
Dr. Prishukumar, do we have something in the works which is stronger, bigger, faster than the GSLV satellite launch vehicle? Dr. Srikumar, can you hear me?
Yes, sorry, I didn't hear the question. Would you repeat that?
Do we have something in the works in India which is bigger, stronger than the GSLV satellite launch vehicle?
ISRO is working on the next generation launch vehicles, and it takes many years for it to be developed. So there are various phases of development. Clearly, large lift capacity is essential for future space programs, and there is a program underway.
Okay. The other interesting thing is that apparently there's going to be a lot of collaboration between Japan and India in the next phase post Chandrayaan-3. Amitabh Ghosh, if you could explain how different countries coming together, especially friends and strategic allies like Japan, could help speed up the pace at which India's missions progress from here, and how it also helps Japan.
Right. So I'll tell you how this collaboration really happened. I think there is also some misconceptions. So when a country is saying that we are doing a mission to the moon, they set out something called announcement of opportunity. Many countries and many universities all over the world respond, and then the country which is going, they choose the instrument that best suits their goals. And this happens for NASA, this happens for everyone. So I don't know what the specific Japan collaboration is. So the advantage of this is that, maybe NASA is going and India it contributes a mission. So it overall progresses the science. It is increasing what we call the science return for the dollar. So it helps everybody. And in this case, if Japan and India collaborate, it will not only help India and Japan, but it will help the whole world, because most of the data is usually shared internationally.
Okay, let's spend a moment on the probe itself. Once the Chandrayaan lands, this lunar probe that goes out, you can see it on the images there. We're also reading about craters. And the question that comes to my mind, Arvind Paranjpe, is how do we control this? How do we ensure it doesn't get stuck somewhere? Because the surface of the moon obviously very different from the surface of the Earth. How does this get controlled? And how do we ensure we can bring it back and just move it around in the way that we need?
No, I think that the rover is going to be, it will have its autonomy. It is autonomous instrumentation, which can be controlled from the station on the Earth via either orbiter or the propulsion and through radio communication. But I think it will take some decision on its own, and I think it is going to be moving about about 100 meters or so. So it will take its own decision. It will decide, but it also, as it moves around, it will take the lot of observations of the lunar soil, etc., and radiate, send it back to us, and that will give us a lot of scientific information. But having said this, I don't think it is going to come back into the thing. I mean, once it is landed on the moon, they are going to be there until someone in future goes and picks them up or something. But it is just going to be there. It is not going to come back or anything like that.
Okay, while the Chandrayaan-3 gets set to make a soft landing on the moon's south pole on the 23rd of August, Russia is also aiming for the same target. Russia's Luna 25 is expected to reach the moon's south pole a day before India's Chandrayaan-3. Here's a report.
Here we have a majestic liftoff of LVM-3 M4 rocket carrying India's prestigious Chandrayaan-3.
It's a race to the moon now. As Chandrayaan-3 heads to the moon and will land on August 23rd, there is another country aiming to land at the exact same place, the moon's south pole. Russia's Luna 25 took off for the moon on August 10, a whole 35 days after Chandrayaan-3 was launched into space, and yet is expected to reach the moon a day before Chandrayaan does. So Luna 25 is taking just 12 days to reach the moon, whereas Chandrayaan is taking 40 days. But why is that? While Chandrayaan-3 weighs a whopping 3,900 kgs, the Luna 25 is much, much lighter, weighing just 1,750 kgs. That has made the biggest difference for the Russian moon mission. There are several other differences as well between the two missions, including the duration of the mission, which is 1 year for Russia versus 14 days for India. But does it really matter who gets to the moon first?
It does not matter. It does not matter. And the competition is all in the mind of the media. So imagine, I think Luna 25 probably started development in 2012 or 11. And Chandrayaan started development maybe, 2-3 years ago at least. So, and on that day, do you think both the scientists on both these teams knew that the other person is also going and we are going to land the same day and we're going to beat them? It is not possible. These things take a lot of time.
The reality is India will join an elite league of just 3 nations, which included the Soviet Union, to make a soft landing on the moon. ISRO even congratulated Luna 25 soon after their successful takeoff and quipped about having another meeting point in our space journeys. So let's be clear, Luna 25's moon mission most definitely does not take the sheen away from the Chandrayaan mission. Bureau Report, India Today.
Dr. Ghosh, if this was a race, and I know as a scientist you'll say it's not, but there is ego, there is vanity, there is pride and all of that when it comes to any such scientific achievement, where does the global space order stand at this moment, given that it's not just countries that are in this race, but now powerful tech billionaires who are also trying to be a part of this competition?
And I still think there's a spirit of not competition but cooperation. I think we have societies where Indians, Japanese, everybody is a member. The Meteorological Society, for example, which Dr. Sri Kumar would be aware of. So I think still it's overwhelmingly cooperation. And just quickly answer your last question, how's the rover? You have to make the decision to drive, and it can still get into trouble. It can get stuck, and I have faced this. And if you are the mission planner and I have been in that position, you have to make the judgment call, and you are responsible.
No, so what happens, because you're sitting all this distance away, you have,
Yes.
what I appear is some, it feels like some kind of a video game type console, and you're trying to control something on the moon without really knowing what the surface looks like. How did you get stuck? What happened? What do you do?
Well, our rover got stuck. The Mars rover Spirit got stuck, and we couldn't get out. We couldn't get out in time, and it was a disaster. So, if it gets overturned, there is no way to turn it back. So every time you make a move with the rover, and I have been in this position where you have to make this judgment and you have to sign off on a particular route, you have to make that best judgment, and then ultimately there's a little
So
bit
what
of
happened in your case? How did it get stuck?
Well, it was, we miscalculated how much sand there is. And so the wheels kept turning and it didn't go forward. And so then the winter came, and then of course it was not parked for the winter. So it died.
What could you have done differently in that situation? Like in hindsight?
See, hindsight, there is no way. At some point you have to take a little bit of risk. Otherwise you're not going to move. So we had a high-rise camera above, and we would do route planning through that. Right now, Perseverance has a helicopter or drone which helps in route planning. But ultimately, there is no roads on the moon or on Mars, right? You have to choose a route, and you don't know what.
So is the surface of the moon also sandy? Like, is it easy to navigate, or is it like a hard surface?
See, if you talk to Neil Armstrong, he would tell you the dust is very stubborn. It's electrostatic, and it sticks to the boots. What it does to the rover electronics, the wheels, would it get into, for example, the gearbox? Well, I don't know. That's all very interesting. See, that is why it is so difficult, because you're into the unknown. So that is what I think, it's not a humdrum thing. It is, there are unknowns, and there will be, for example, if you are...
but that's really complex, because I'm a student of commerce and economics, not really science, but if you make all the effort of getting to the surface of the moon, and then for some reason your rover just gets stuck as you come out, that's a lot of effort, then that just got stuck in a bunch of, in some sand.
Right. I mean, this is reality. I mean, imagine people who used to go to America maybe 200, 300 years back. You go by ship, and then you take the horse to California, and it takes many, many months. It might die, it might crash, you might die. So, I mean, this is just how things are. You're going into a new frontier. It is not defined. So at some point, you have to face that.
Dr. Srikumar, what would you be most concerned about as we count down to the 23rd of August? What would be your worry number one?
Well, not too many worries, except for completely unanticipated thing. The space always has challenges. I think this time the ISRO team is fairly well prepared with various contingencies of the landing part of it. So barring any completely unforeseen situation in which, if certain systems malfunction way beyond the results that you've seen from tests that have been conducted, I do not see anything that actually stops ISRO from successfully landing this time.
Ramesh Chandra Kapoor, what would you be most concerned about? If you were at ISRO right now, what would be your biggest concern?
Most important thing is obviously the landing, which should be perfect as we have been visualizing. Next is the functioning of the various instruments, because lander has got a few instruments, so has the rover got. The rover can do some in situ experiments, and which is a wonderful thing because it has got spectroscopes, and then laser-induced ablation is possible, and then you can try to find out the composition of the material there. So mineralogy is one of the major things, and lander also has some equipments to know about the very thin, extremely thin atmosphere of the moon, and of course the interiors in terms of the seismic activity that also is to be measured. That apart, see, there are a lot of ambitions with as these instruments are supposed to work, and communication also must work because it's a very it's a foreign land, and space is very hostile. It doesn't spare anybody anything. So everything must work. And as it was being said, the rover has 6 wheels and it has a ground clearance of about 6 inches or so. So one is hoping that it is able to move around. Its speed is supposedly 1 centimeter per second, and it should do in next 12 days or so about 300 to 500 meters of exploration and then whatever. But main thing is that proper landing and the functioning of the various instruments.
Arvind Paranjpe, are we planning a manned mission to the moon? Is that something that you think we should be investing a lot of time, energy and money on, or do you think that's not really something India should be pushing at this moment?
No, I think we should be worrying, but that will take time, isn't it? But I think what we need to understand in this discussion is that something which point we have been missing, and that is the distance between these two celestial bodies, that is Mars and Moon. So the Moon is the closest one, and our radio signal itself takes about 1.2 seconds to reach Moon and another 1.2 seconds to come back. So if there is something that is happening either on the surface of Moon with this rover, we will know only after you get to know something and then you send back the signal, and it takes more than 2.5 seconds, which is a very, very long time gap, you see. So as Shri Kumar has said, certainly, they are more worried. I can't be talking about how much worried I am. But yes, as you said, that the human mission ultimately has to be there. But then as the time progresses, we'll probably have better alternatives than sending human beings to the moon.
We also have something, Amitabh Ghosh, planned as a solar observatory next, the Aditya. Do you want to tell our viewers a bit about that? The significance of India working on the solar observatory and what it could potentially achieve?
So they're going to probably study the sun, and we fixate on one thing, but each agency does many missions, and some come into limelight and some don't. And so there is another NISAR mission which is being developed with the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. So there is a lot of things that ISRO has in the pipeline, and they are, I think, trying to do a reusable launch vehicle. So there are a lot of things that ISRO is doing. And same with NASA, there's a lot, but there's some get very highlighted.
Okay, sure. So it's been a fascinating conversation. We have a lot more in the build-up to the 23rd. Roughly around 5:30, that's when this landing is expected. Massive interest in the fate of the Chandrayaan. The government and ISRO trying to keep it very low-key, not wanting to build up expectations, but such is the curiosity in the fate of this mission that people are curious regardless of what the scientists want. I also find very interesting that these are men and women of science and rationale, and yet there is an element of superstition and belief involved, because ultimately everyone is human and everyone has their own beliefs. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. I hope to have you back as we count down to the landing of Chandrayaan-3 from 2008, when the first Chandrayaan mission was launched, to 2019, when Chandrayaan-2 took to the skies, to now. Our ISRO heroes have worked super hard to ensure India's tryst with the moon is a success. As we count down to Chandrayaan-3's soft landing, here's a look at the making of the Chandrayaan mission.
3, 2, 1.
The clock ticked, and at exactly 2:43 p.m. on 22nd July 2019, India took a giant leap to the moon.
समय आप स्पीड को देख रहे हैं 2 S200 रॉकेट +5 सेकंड दोनों का प्रज्वलन हो गया है.
For the second time, Indian Space Research Organization created history by the successful launch of Chandrayaan-2.
L110 engine started. अभी अनाउंस किया गया है कि L110 जो कि हमारा दूसरा मुख्य रॉकेट है उसका इग्निशन हो गया है, उसके दोनों इंजन प्रज्वलित हो गए हैं.
This was India's second mission to the moon after the successful voyage of Chandrayaan in 2008.
Ignition sequence normal and liftoff normal.
GSLV Mk3 blasted off to space carrying a Land Rover, orbiter and a lander with a speed of 11 kilometers per second from the Satish Dhawan Space Research Center in Sriharikota.
It is the beginning of a historical journey of India towards moon and to land at a place near South Pole to carry out scientific experiments to explore unexplored.
Within minutes, Chandrayaan-2 was successfully placed into the Earth's orbit. As the space vehicle beamed back a perfect report card, Indian space scientists at Mission Control erupted with joy.
7.4 kilometers and the velocity was nearly 140. So the Vikram Lander has successfully completed the rough braking phase.
The mission was expected to take 48 days in total to land its rover Pragyan on the south pole of the moon, roughly on 14th September 2019. But then, on 10th September, days before the final landing on moon, ISRO announced that it had lost contact with lander Vikram. ISRO scientists were disappointed. It was an emotional moment. Chandrayaan-2 suffered various delays and revisions a decade after the successful maiden Indian moon mission Chandrayaan-1. In October 2008, ISRO successfully launched Chandrayaan-1. On 22nd October 2008, Chandrayaan mission with a lunar orbiter and impactor was launched using PSLV XL from Satish Dhawan Space Center at Sriharikota.
Ignition sequence normal and liftoff normal.
It was a big boost to Indian space exploration history. India researched and developed indigenous technology to explore the moon with Chandrayaan-1. 2 weeks after its launch, it was inserted into lunar orbit on 8th November 2008. On 14th November 2008, the Moon Impact Probe separated from the Chandrayaan orbiter and struck the South Pole in a controlled manner. India became the fourth country to place its flag insignia on the Moon, near the crater Shackleton. The location of impact was named Jawahar Point. Though Chandrayaan-1 was planned to survey the lunar surface for 2 years, but after a successful year of transmitting data and detecting presence of lunar water, it stopped communicating on 28 August 2009. 312 days of Chandrayaan-1 was a celebration of ISRO's hard work and indigenous technological advancement in space exploration. Nearly 7 years later, NASA, with a ground-based radar system, relocated Chandrayaan-1 in its lunar orbit. Today, its orbit varies between 150 and 270 kilometers in altitude every 2 years around the moon.
Coming up on the other side of a quick break, the battle for Kaveri water boils again. BJP hits out at the Siddaramaiah government as it decides to release water to Tamil Nadu. Details on the other side.
क्या करें आप गरीबों के लिए? गरीबी हटाओ बोल के बोलते रहे, गरीबों को हटाए, गरीबी नहीं हटाए आप। लेकिन तेलंगाना में 10 साल में जो इंकलाब केसीआर साहब लेके आए, देश में कहीं और नहीं हुआ। तो क्यों जाना है कांग्रेस के साथ? क्यों वोट देना है कांग्रेस के साथ? क्यों देना है भाई कांग्रेस को वोट? कितने साल और मौका देते? नहीं थे क्या राज में? 62 इयर्स नहीं थे? तेलंगाना में भी थे 62 इयर्स। उनकी नानी थी, पप्पा थे, दादा थे, परदादा थे, सभी लोग थे। क्या हुआ? बदलाव आया? नहीं आया। फिर क्यों मौका देना है उनको?
The battle for the water of the Kaveri river is boiling again. The Karnataka government's decision to release water to Tamil Nadu has come under severe criticism. Farmers are up in arms and the BJP is accusing the Congress government of appeasing its Team India ally, the DMK, ahead of the 2024 elections.
Battle for Kaveri water heats up. After dithering for a long time, Karnataka is now all set to release water to Tamil Nadu.
ರೈತರು ನಮ್ಮ ರೈತರು ಯಾಕೆ ಬಿಟ್ಟರು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಬೀಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಕೈಯ ಬೀಗ ಬೊಮ್ಮಾಯಿಯವ್ರ ಕೈಲಿ ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕೈಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬೀಗ ಇದೆ ಬೊಮ್ಮಾಯಿಯವರು ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಾನೂನು ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ.
The move comes after Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin knocked on the doors of the Supreme Court demanding the state's share of water. The Karnataka BJP has upped the ante against the Siddaramaiah government, branding the decision to release water as a crime.
So, government of Karnataka has failed to protect its interest, its water interest, its interest of the farmers, its interest of the drinking water, especially Bangalore and other towns in Kaveri Basin. They are slept over. Now, in the garb of legal thing, they are trying to release water. CM said categorically they are not going to release. Yes. But Deputy CM is saying that it is compulsion. I don't see any compulsions in that. The only compulsion might be the political compulsion.
JDS leader H.D. Kumaraswamy called it betrayal of farmers.
Actually, today I am really surprised about the Karnataka government decision. Because the Tamil Nadu government, when they approached Supreme Court to give direction to Karnataka government to release 37 TMC of water in this month. But we are facing severe problem of water here, our farmers, even for drinking also. In future days, drinking water also, severe problem will be there for even Bangalore city.
Meanwhile, Karnataka farmers are on the warpath against release of Kaveri water, claiming there isn't sufficient water for them.
ಇವಾಗ ನಮಗೆ ನೀರು ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ ಪೂರ್ತಿ ತಮಿಳುನಾಡು ನೀರು ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಈ ಕೆಟ್ಟ ಸರ್ಕಾರಕ್ಕೆ ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಎಲ್ಲ ರೈತರು ಆತ್ಮಹತ್ಯೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂತ ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿ ಬರ್ತದೆ.
As the decades-old Kaveri water dispute reignites, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu are at the loggerheads once again. Bureau Report, India Today.
The state of war in Telangana has begun and the BRS has come out all guns blazing at Rahul Gandhi. MLC and Chief Minister KCR's daughter Kaveri has slammed the Congress MP and his Bharat Jodo Yatra. Here's how the war of words exploded.
राहुल गांधी जी है, उन्होंने नया यात्रा निकाले, भारत जोड़ो यात्रा. मुझे क्या लग रहा मालूम, जो 1000 चूहों को मार के एक बिल्ली हज यात्रा को निकलती.
The political war is simmering ahead of the Telangana Assembly elections slated by the end of this year. Ruling BRS has launched an all-out attack against the Congress with its scathing jibe at Rahul Gandhi. Taking a massive dig at Rahul's Bharat Jodo Yatra, Kaveri claimed that it is absolute depth of hypocrisy by the Congress.
राहुल गांधी जी है, उन्होंने नया यात्रा निकाले, भारत जोड़ो यात्रा. मुझे क्या लग रहा मालूम, जो 1000 चूहों को मार के एक बिल्ली हज यात्रा को निकलती, वैसा है राहुल गांधी जी का.
BRS MLC and daughter of Chief Minister KCR, Kaveri, questioned Congress's governance record, accusing the Gandhi family of betraying Muslims.
क्या करें आप गरीबों के लिए? गरीबी हटाओ बोल के बोलते रहे, गरीबों को हटाए, गरीबी नहीं हटाए. आप कितने साल और मौका देते? नहीं थे क्या राज्य में 62 इयर्स नहीं थे? तेलंगाना में भी थे 62 इयर्स. हमारे सारे
Kaveri asked BRS workers to reach out to Muslims and mosques to educate the community.
साहब ने आपसे एक रिक्वेस्ट किया था. आज हमारे माइनॉरिटी भाई सोचना चाहिए. घर घर आप जाओ, हर एक मौलाना को पकड़ो, हर एक मस्जिद में जाओ, आप उनको समझाओ क्यों देना है भाई कांग्रेस को वोट, कितने साल और मौका देते.
The attacks marked Kaveri's first visit to the Nizamabad Lok Sabha constituency, where she aims to contest from in 2024. Kaveri's remarks drew sharp criticism from the Congress party, which branded BRS the B team of BJP.
आप लोग BRS समझ रहे, हम लोग बीजेपी रिश्तेदार समिति बोल के राहुल जी ने साफ साफ कह दिए. जब बीजेपी रिश्तेदार समिति से इससे बेहतर कुछ स्टेटमेंट हम एक्सपेक्ट भी नहीं कर सकते.
Even in Telangana, our father came into power promising 12% reservation. It is Congress who has given 4% reservation. It is Congress who has given free education, free higher education to the minorities. They haven't done anything. They only talk. They themselves, in the last few days, are very much in panic about the surveys what they are seeing. And now they are behind minority votes.
Meanwhile, BJP called Kaveri Rahul Gandhi war an eyewash, branding them same sides of a coin.
Srimati Kaveri's statement that the Congress has not done anything for the Muslims shows that both of them are trying to woo the Muslim votes for their group. The BRS party is going further in order to appease the minority communities more than the Congress. However, the criticism of Srimati Kaveri on Congress party with regard to the minorities is only an eyewash, and both are one and the same.
With Apurva Jayachandran and Abdul Bashir, Bureau Report, India Today.
This is where I wrap up the news track tonight. For your time and your trust, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. Till then, from all of us here, goodbye, good night.
दिन की कस्टडी जेसी के लिए भेज दिया गया है और 148, 149, 323, 353, 395, 397 और 506, 25 आर्म्स एक्ट की जो धाराएं लगाई गई है उसमें से 395 और 97 जो दो धाराएं हैं डाउटफुल है, क्योंकि लहराते हुए तलवार भाले वगैरह लेकर के आए. इनमें ये बनती नहीं है क्योंकि ये धाराएं जो है रॉबरी की और डकैती की है इसलिए इनको पार्ट ऑफ इन्वेस्टिगेशन में चार्ज के टाइम पर हम इनको डिलीट कराएंगे, चाहे हमें सुप्रीम कोर्ट तक क्यों ना जाना पड़े।
रिकवरी दिखाई है सर?
इसमें 8 तलवारें दिखाई है रिकवरी।
सर इनको कहाँ, कौन सी जेल में भेजा जाएगा?
अब इनको जो है नीम का जेल के लिए आदेश करे कोर्ट ने, और आज इनको नीम का जेल के लिए भेज दिया है।
Sure, it must be very demoralizing, and I cannot even begin to imagine the circumstances in which they live. And Salman Taseer Shaheed, he was the governor of Punjab of my province, and he raised his voice for Asia Bibi, and he had to pay the price with his life. And as you mentioned, that not many commentators or politicians vocally condemn such incidents. I think if you look at Pakistan's recent history, whether it's the murder of Shahbaz Bhatti, who was the Minister of Minorities from the Christian community, or Salman Taseer, or others who have dared to venture in this path of defending minorities, they have paid a very heavy price. And even when I speak about this issue on Indian media in particular, I try to be very careful, and even I am fearful of the reaction from certain quarters, the organizations which you mentioned. But there is another factor which I'd like to add in, is that the Pakistani population is not extreme, and it does not echo such narratives. And the proof lies in the fact that Pakistanis have never elected these extremists into power. So in the history of Pakistan, in the 70 plus decades since we have come into existence, Pakistan has never elected an extremist party into power. We have never paid heed to the ideologies of TTP or TLP, which are not representative of the Pakistani populace. So I think that these extremists, because they are loud and they are violent, they have gathered more space in our ecosystem, but they do not represent the majority, and which I think sadly the majority also now lives in fear, and the state is also wary of acting against such elements, because perhaps there is an apprehension.
Oh, sorry.
बने हमारा यूपी के माफिया बुलडोजर से डर के मिट्टी में मिले, चैन की सब सांस लेके खुशियां झलके झलके मिले दिल मेरा तुम्हारा। मिट जाए दर्द घट जाए मरज, मुफ्त मिले सब क्या है हरज। ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਸੁਰ ਮਿਲੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਦਿਲ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ, ਜੋ ਬੋਲੇ ਸੋ ਨਿਹਾਲ ਸਤਿ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ।
तुम्हार सुर हमार सुर खिला होता रहे जरूर।
मिले सुर जो हमरा तुम्हारा, बना रहे गठबंधन न्यारा। मामा का है एक ही नारा, रहे ना कोई मुसीबत का मारा।
अपना इंडिया जब चले तो पूरा भारत ही जुड़े, नफरतों की बात ना हो, प्यार हो हल्के हल्के।
मेरे दिल मेरा तुम्हारा, मेरे दिल मेरा तुम्हारा, तो देश बने हमारा, तो देश बने हमारा।
Co-presented by Star Health Insurance, the health insurance specialist.
Co-presented by JK Tyre Ranger Series, stay wild at heart. Co-powered by the new Kia Seltos, the badass reborn. Co-powered by PolicyBazaar.com, हर family होगी insured.
Good evening, hello and welcome. You're with the news today, your primetime destination news, newsmakers, talking points. The big talking point tonight, how bad is the fight between the AAP and the Congress? How difficult will it be for the India alliance to take off with these state-level battles taking place? We'll have a talking point on that. Also, what will bring lasting peace to Manipur? We'll be joined by the state's leading human rights activist. He'll tell us what is the road ahead. But first, as always, it's time for the 9 headlines at 9. India achieves another mega moon milestone. Chandrayaan-3 lander Vikram separates from the mothership. Moon landing now scheduled for August the 23rd. All on track. After Congress and AAP spar over Delhi seat sharing, Trinamool Congress now declares it will sweep Bengal in 2024 with or without the Congress. All eyes also on what happens next. NCP Supremo Sharad Pawar tries to quell all confusion over his next move, attacks BJP in a public rally, says BJP dividing communities and castes. The BJP, first of the block ahead of the winter state election, releases its first candidate list for poll-bound Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. Supreme Court pulls up Gujarat government about premature remission for the convicts in the Bilkis Bano case. Top court asks why selective remission was awarded. Himachal Pradesh death toll mounts to 71 after incessant rains and landslides. IAF deployed as relief and rescue operations continue. Protests intensify in Jadavpur University in Kolkata after the death of a student over alleged ragging. BJP demands a CBI probe. Trinamool Congress claims BJP states ahead in ragging figures. Battle for Kaveri waters boils again as the Siddaramaiah government decides to release water to Tamil Nadu. BJP accuses the Congress of appeasing its India ally DMK. And India Today investigation impact new riots. Provocator Bittu Bajrangi sent to 14-day judicial custody. Police also recover 8 swords from him. But tonight's top story, just weeks after their united show, some cracks are appearing within the opposition India alliance. From the Aam Aadmi Party and Congress tug-of-war in Delhi over seat sharing to NCP versus NCP tussles in Maharashtra. And finally, the Trinamool Congress today declaring that it will sweep Bengal with or without the Congress in 2024. The big question, can the opposition rise above their own state-level differences to take on the NDA in 2024? Will the India alliance be stillborn or will it be able to take off? That's going to be our talking point. But first, our top story.
They came together with the aim of taking on Narendra Modi in 2024. but are themselves divided by political interests, from Maharashtra to Delhi to Bengal. India, the alliance of opposition parties, is fighting many battles within. In Delhi, the Aam Aadmi Party and Congress are in a tug of war for the 7 Lok Sabha seats in the capital. The divisions became public on Wednesday after a meeting between state and central leaders of the Congress.
दिल्ली 19वां राज्य था, 24 कैसे जीतना है और बिल्कुल आदेश हुआ है कि हमें 7 सीटों पर मजबूत संगठन के साथ हर नेता को आज से अभी से निकलना है। 7 महीने 7 सीटें हैं। ये बात हुई कि जिसकी दिल्ली उसका देश होता है। ये दिल्ली का इतिहास बताता है।
Alka Lamba's declaration sparked an instant showdown, with top leaders trying to cool tempers.
There are 7 seats in Delhi, right? Congress has to be strong in all 7. And we have to prepare for all 7. That does not mean in case there is an alliance, we fight all 7. Suppose we suddenly get new, we believe we want New Delhi and South Delhi seats, and we prepare here. In the alliance, we get Chandni Chowk and West Delhi. And if we have not prepared there, how will we fight an election? Obviously, any self-respecting party, in case there is an alliance and before details of the alliance are worked out, will try and strengthen itself in the entire state.
While Congress and Aam Aadmi Party are still sniping at each other, they are clearly united in their attacks against the Modi government.
जब से मणिपुर की घटना घटी है, प्रधानमंत्री जी चुप हैं। मणिपुर के अंदर 6500 एफआईआर हो गई 190 दिन के अंदर। 3 मई से लेकर 31 जुलाई के बीच में 6500 एफआईआर हो गई। प्रधानमंत्री जी चुप रहे। मणिपुर में 4000 लोगों के घर जला दिए गए।